All right. Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call to order the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Governing Board for
Recording in
Thursday,
progress.
June 11th. And we're going to start with roll call, please.
Diane Vanderbilt,
Here.
Kathleen Taylor,
Here.
Brandy Anderson, Here. Clara Andriola,
Present.
Mike Clark, Naomi Dewar,
Here.
Jeannie Herman, Ed Lawson,
Here.
Devin Reese,
Here.
Joe Rodriguez,
Here.
Great.
and
And
Beth,
next,
Beth Smith is online.
terrific. Thank you. Hello, Beth. And if I can please have Commissioner Reese do a salute to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. If I can please get a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a first. I guess-
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
Next, we'll move along to approval of the minutes for our April 9th, 2026 meeting. If there are no changes, if I could please have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so I have a first by Commissioner Andriola and a second by Vice Chair Taylor. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to number 5, report, and Trustee Smith.
Thank you so much, Chair. Greetings, everyone from Lawler Event Center. We're in between graduations today, so I'm joining everyone virtually. We just had the end of school, and with that, we saw the closings of the old elementary school instead, Vaughn Middle School and also Pine Middle School. And something for all of my colleagues to look forward to is the ribbon cutting at the end of summer for Vaughn Middle School at Stead Elementary School. So we will be reopening Stead in the new location, and then also reopening the new Vaughn. So you'll be looking for invitations to join those ribbon cuttings as well. In the work that we've been doing here in the school district, we are in the midst of our new 10-year capital improvement plan. That work has been underway for months now, and it has a meeting of the Capital Funding Protection Committee later today. All of the projects that are outlined for consideration by capital funding and then also back to our board on June 23rd all align with our regional plans. And I do want to express sincere appreciation both personally and then also on behalf of my organization to 2 of the governing board commissioners who serve on capital funding that have shown personal leadership that we are particularly grateful for. And that is Commissioner Devin Reese and then also Commissioner Clara Andriola. We appreciate that. And I look forward to the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, terrific. Next, we're going to move on to number 6, public comment.
There is none.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If I can please have a motion if nobody wants to remove anything for discussion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, I have a first by Commissioner Andriola and a second by Vice Chair Taylor. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye. Terrific, thank you. Next, we'll move on to number 8, business of the day.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 8A is the home ratification item, and we have Shawnee Sousa, who I believe is the chair of the Home Consortium Board right now, and also City of Reno Home Consortium representative.
Shawnee Sousa, Team RPA for the record. All right. Okay. All right, so yeah, today I will be taking you through the ratification of the Washoe County Home Consortium funding. And Alex is going to be taking over for the project part, but I'll get you through some of the process and background as well. Okay. So to just start off, the WCHC was formed through an intergovernmental agreement, and that was in 1994 between Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, and that was really in the effort to improve affordable housing efforts. And the WCHC receives and administers home funds and provides a forum for discussion, and that's really for affordable housing around the region and for those goals. And to implement those goals, the intergovernmental agreement also further establishes the Technical Review Committee. And they are tasked with making those funding recommendations, which go to the directors. The directors are the city managers and the county manager. And then that then comes to you, and we ratify the final funding allocations. So here's the annual process. The applications, they go out and they are received all through the end of 2025 of last year. And then in January of 2026, that's when they close. And the Washoe County Home Consortium team, they start reviewing them. And they bring them to the 3 meetings in February, March, and April for the TRC to look at and get some presentations and ask questions and understand more about each of the projects. And then in April, that goes to the directors meeting. Like I said, that's the city managers and the county manager. And then that was approved, and so now you are seeing it here. And now I'll pass it over to Alex to get into more of those project specifics for you.
All right, I'm going to keep this super simple. So thank you, Chair Vanderwell and the Truckee Meadows Regional Governing Board for allowing me to be here today. My name is Alexander Segura Garcia. I am the Housing Compliance Coordinator for the City of Reno Housing and Neighborhood Development. And today I'm here to present our affordable housing projects on behalf of the Washoe County Home Consortium. All right, so this year, the Washoe County Home Consortium received approximately $3.2 million for development projects. We also received approximately $768,000 for affordable housing trust funds. The affordable housing trust funds are used to partially fund the City of Reno's rental and deposit assistance program. This program is at the regional level, so it does City of Sparks, City of Reno, and then unincorporated areas of Washoe County. Those who are seeking to apply for assistance need to be at or below 60% of the area median income. And then households who are interested in applying for assistance may apply online or in person. And then I did provide that link in there for anyone that's interested in applying or sending out to your constituents. This year, we received a total of 3 projects that applied for the home funds. These 3 projects are going to provide 124 additional affordable housing units to our existing affordable housing stock. We have our first project, Summit Heights Phase 2. Summit Heights Phase 2 is 42 additional units to their already Phase 1 from last year. The project type is senior housing, so that is serving those 55 and over. And then the rents are capped at 60% of the area median income. This project will be developed by Green Street Development. The second project we have is a Reserve at Sparks. This project has a total of 40 units. The project type is multifamily, and the rents are capped at or below 60% of the area median income. They will be developed by Northern Nevada Community Housing. And then lastly, we have the Reno Avenue project. This is going to total 42 units. Again, the project type is multifamily, and the rents are capped at 50% of the area median income with 24 project-based vouchers pending approval. This project is developed by the Reno Housing Authority. So these are the 3 projects that were approved. They were vetted and approved by the Washoe County Home Consortium Technical Review Committee. They were also approved by the directors. As Shawnee mentioned, the directors would be the county manager, City of Sparks manager, and then City of Reno manager. And these are the 3 projects we have now pending your approval.
Okay, so the motion is on the screen overhead, or it's within your packet. If you have any questions, we're both available for any of them.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions from any? Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wanted to just ask a foundational question, which is why the approval by the by our body? Because I understood the presentation and I've received it before, and all the
Yes.
projects are fantastic. Are there projects of regional significance, or is it that we're required to do it?
I believe, we actually were asked this question a few years ago, and it's because of the interlocal agreement between the 3 jurisdictions, but I actually think,
Madam Chair, Jessica Prunty for the record. Member Reese, the interlocal agreement assigns ratification authority to this body, but that's about it.
Okay, and so maybe that would be the only thing that I would say is just the preface to it so that we sort of understood the role. At the end of the day, the work that the consortium is doing is incredible. These projects are all in their own right really fantastic. So I just wanted to sort of understand the position that we have here on the body. And of course, I'm going to support the recommendation and the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reese. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to ratify the Washoe County Home Consortium Fund allocation of home funds as described in the staff report and the accompanying attachments.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a first by Vice Chair Taylor and a second by Commissioner Andriola. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to item 8B.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 8B is a regional plan amendment for the Lazy 5 substation and transmission line. And we have policy analyst Nate Kusha.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board. Nate Kusha for the record. As Director Smith mentioned, this is a regional plan amendment for the Lazy 5 substation and transmission lines. So just an overview of what this project is. This is to establish a regional utility site and corridor, and that is to accommodate a new substation and two new 120 kilovolt electric transmission lines. The site is located roughly at 500 Highland Ranch Parkway. It's the big swath of land. You can see those. That conglomeration of parcels is just the subject site. What you're approving is actually just the lines and the site, which are up there, the corridor and site. And our determination is that this does conform with the regional plan. So some more overview. The Sparks Planning Commission approved this project at their January 15th meeting of this year. Following that, the Sparks City Council sponsored the regional plan amendment to be heard at this body on March 9th. And then at their April 23rd meeting of this year, the Regional Planning Commission made a threshold determination that the consideration of the regional plan amendment at this time was necessary to the public health and welfare of the community or substantially benefits the community as a whole, and set a public hearing for the regional plan amendment. And then at that same meeting, the Regional Planning Commission recommended that the governing board adopt the proposed amendment to the 2024 regional plan. So some more context, the proposed project is part of the larger Lazy 5 and Lemon Valley transmission line project that MV Energy is working on to meet the region's power needs. This is on Bureau of Land Management owned land, and they issued a finding of no significant impact for the environmental assessment related with the project. And in addition, an existing 120 kilovolt transmission line and associated regional utility corridor between the Sullivan substation and the Spanish Springs substation will be removed once these lines are constructed. So as mentioned, this is a regional plan amendment to establish that utility site and utility corridor. It was also an associated project of regional significance, a conformance review for that, which was approved by the RPC previously, and that is for a utility line carrying 60 kilovolts or more and an electric substation, which both qualify it as a project of regional significance. Overhead is the review criteria for any regional plan amendment, and we'll walk through these fairly quickly. So the proposed amendment to establish a regional utility site and corridor to accommodate the new substation and two new transmission lines is not anticipated to influence or impact regional capacities, growth projections, existing or planned developments, or existing or planned public facilities and service availability. The proposed regional utility corridor and site are on parcels identified as development constraint areas, and that is for publicly owned open space as they are currently owned by the Bureau of Land Management, as mentioned. However, per policy NR3, utilities are exempt from the requirements identified in this policy. There are no other impacts to natural resources that were identified. It is not anticipated to result in any intergovernmental impacts and generally supports the vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan. And finally, this amendment is to the benefit of the health and welfare of the community, as the new transmission lines and substation are needed to serve the anticipated regional growth in electrical demand. And without these improvements, the existing infrastructure will be unable to meet future load requirements. So with that, there is a motion overhead, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Are there any requests to speak on this item?
Not for this one.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Any further discussion or a motion, please?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Reese and a second by Vice Chair Taylor. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, please vote. Aye. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to 8C.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. I'm going to take us through a short presentation on 8C, and then we're going to turn it over to John Marshall, who's going to give us a presentation regarding his appeal. You guys can just move the slides forward for me when I say next slide, please. That'd be great. So, long title, but we're just going to read it. This is a consideration of an appeal pursuant to Section 1.3 of the RPGB Regulations on Procedure of the Regional Planning Commission's threshold determination that the proposed regional plan amendment, Lake Ridge Resort RPA 26-003, seeking to amend the regional land designation for a 12.5 acre portion of the subject parcel, it's APN 042-011-29, from Tier 2 land to Tier 1 land can be considered at any time as being necessary to the health and welfare of the community or substantially benefits the community in general. Next slide, please. So just a little background to start. What has sort of triggered this whole process and the appeal is a proposed regional land designation amendment that came through as part, was required and necessary as part of a City of Reno request to change the master plan land use on a 12.5 acre site portion of a parcel there on the Lake Ridge Golf Course. So there's two components. There's a regional plan amendment component, which that says RPC portion, it should say RPA portion, from Tier 2 to Tier 1. That's the amendment for the regional plan. And then the change from parks, greenways, and open space to a suburban mixed use or SMU master plan land use, that's the master plan amendment portion. The Reno City Planning Commission recommended approval to the council on November 20th, and the Reno City Council approved and sponsored the amendment on January 28th. Next slide, please. And so under NRS 278.0272, there's a couple subsections there. Subsection 8, we're looking for this determination of whether to consider a regional plan amendment seeking to amend this tier or regional land designation on that 12.5 acres from Tier 2 land to Tier 1 land. And the question really comes down to when we should be doing this. NRS, that same statute, 278.0272, provides that all requests for RPAs or regional plan amendments can be considered as part of the RPC's annual review of the regional plan, except as provided in subsection 8, which allows consideration of an amendment at any time if it is necessary to the health and welfare of the community or substantially benefits the community in general. And so back at the meeting on April 6th, when the RPC looked at this, staff did recommend that this did substantially benefit the community in general and should be heard at this time. And next slide, please. Basically, we just did it with the previous item when you voted to approve the utility corridor and site. That also was a regional plan amendment because we map the regional utility corridors and sites within the regional plan. And in order to change those maps, that constitutes an amendment. And so, and you know, that happened just now here in June. So the RPC made the determination that the proposed amendment could be considered at any time at their April 6th meeting, similar to what happened for the utility corridor. They considered this amendment should move forward. Reviewing the record provides justification to support the finding. The criteria-based RPA or regional plan amendment for regional land designation amendments ensures the appropriate level of consideration, and the ability to consider amendments in a timely manner is a benefit to the community. And so what I want to talk about a little bit next slide, please, is the idea of regional land designations. Many of you on this board were here back in 2019 when we adopted the concept of the tiers, or what's officially known as the regional land designations. And they're part of our strategy to meet state law as a method to limit premature expansion. And there's a tie to both utilities and services, but also to the local jurisdiction master plans, which also have a nexus with facilities planning and facilities availability. And so the tiering, of which you can see there are 5 different regional land designations. There's the mixed-use core, there's Tier 1, 2, and 3. All 4 of those exist within our Truckee Meadows service area. And then finally, everything outside the TMSA, all the way to the Oregon border, is what we refer to as the rural area. And each of those regional land designations have different requirements for density allowances and also intensity allowances for non-residential. So residential density and intensity for non-residential. And again, they're nested with the local jurisdiction master plan so that we maintain the alignment of what the cities and county are trying to do with their master plans and how our regional boundaries match that. But we were seeking at the time very clearly a more regional, non-jurisdictional approach to our boundary setting here. And then there's just the 5 of them. They're governed by policy RF1, which establishes them in the regional plan. This is in the regional form section of Chapter 3. RF3, which is a table that sets the densities and intensities that are allowed in each one. And then RF5, which lists all the criteria that we look at for an amendment to them. So to switch from tier, either go to a higher or lower tier. And our view that was presented at the time and that we still hold is that these policies really elevate the process when we want to make this kind of a change to one of these 5 boundaries. That we have increased scrutiny, we have specific criteria, we have an additional opportunity for public engagement, and we bring the decision-making, the final decision, to this body, which at the time was what was desired, and so thus we created that mechanism, those policies in the regional plan, in akin to what we saw with the utility corridors. That said, we recognize the very special sort of emphasis and significance of the Truckee Meadows service area boundary, and we specifically limited any amendment request to be heard for that boundary to once a year during the annual review period. Next slide, please. So there's some things baked into this. We established these policies for the tiers, and in order to respond appropriately to the land use planning processes of the local governments, timeliness and processing these requests is part of the deal, right? We're not trying to sit on a request to make a change to the land use. We want to analyze it, present a recommendation, bring it to the body for a determination. And specifically in state law, the RPC has, for both master plan amendments and projects of regional significance, there's actually a 60-day timer. So once we receive a submission from a local government, it's quite, 99% of the time, our submissions are from either City of Reno, Washoe County, or City of Sparks. Unless it's a facilities plan, we might get from our affected entities. But we have 60 days once we deem the application complete to bring that to the RPC and for them to make a determination, or it's automatically deemed approved. So there is a timeliness factor to bringing forward these requests. And as I mentioned, when we established these back in the regional land designation concept, back in 2019 during the update, everyone was involved. It was a collaborative approach. This was not a top-down thing. This was a consensus view that got memorialized in the new plan. The RPC, the RPGB, members of the public, the local jurisdiction staff, TMRPA staff, we all worked together to create this and to really move us back toward what state law was indicating that regional planning should be doing and away from some of the more arbitrary rules that have been set up as part of some of the legal settlements that occurred in the 2000s. Really wanted to get back to, good planning. And so we, by design, contemplated that we would be doing these changes throughout the year in response to these requests. If triggered, there are many master plan requests come through, don't require the tier change, and so then we don't recommend it, and it just goes through the RPC process, and that's it. This comports with our past practice, as we just saw with the utility corridors and sites. We've been doing this probably on the order of 20 years, and we've been doing tier amendments since 2019. There's been really, I think, less than 10 of them that have actually occurred for very small amounts of acreage and very small changes. So in essence, we got those boundaries pretty correct when we established them in 2019, but there's a mechanism for change, but it's criteria-based, and it requires these 2 steps, these 2 votes. And we found that that's substantially beneficial in general to the community to process those throughout the year. Next slide, please. I want to point out that these amendments are map amendments. They're not changes to policy. If we were going to bring, like we've been working on schools policy, We would not try to bring that during the year unless there was some sort of imminent, real necessity to bring that during the year. We're going to bring that during the annual review. And typically when we do really substantive policy changes, that's going to come in the 5-year mandated review. But every year we do an annual review and we do some little updates, and sometimes that could include policy. But we want to limit that to that annual review. These really constitute changes to maps. We're going to establish now those corridors and sites on that utility map. That's map 3. And, as we go through the next few items, which are going to get to the more of the substance of this, we would change map 2, the regional form map, to reflect the tier change if you approve it. I would just point out also that prior to 2019, if we did not have the regional land when we did not have the regional land designations, the change from PGOS to SMU that's going to be shown in the subsequent presentations would have been possible to do at any RPC meeting throughout the year. So it's really us adding this layer of scrutiny, review, criteria, and then bringing this body into the decision-making process that we think is a benefit. But further, the City of Reno, through their process, found as part of their findings and their approval of this master plan land use change that this amendment promotes the health and general welfare of the community. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. But next, I'd like to turn it over to our appellant, who's John Marshall, who's representing the Save Lake Ridge Open Space Group and has a presentation regarding the appeal.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
They need to adjust the time, so we're waiting while they get that up. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm John Marshall, and I represent the Save Lake Ridge Open Space group. And I first want to say that while we're going to see in a second as I'm using the
document camera, please.
This is a lot about language, and it's about the application of state law that constrains local jurisdictions in what they want to do. And so what's before you really is how are you going to apply the state law? I think what Jeremy has just gone over probably is a good policy position to take, but it's a policy decision about when you want to hear things. And the question is, does that policy align in a generic sense with the two provisions that are in front of you and that I have inartfully underlined in red, the key elements. And so first, really the first key phrase is that all requests for amendments to the plan, the regional plan, must be studied and considered at the annual hearing. Okay? That doesn't leave you with much wiggle room, right? Because the only exception that's stated in the statute is whether the proposed amendment, not the overall process or the generic policy of hearing everything together, but the amendment, whether it is necessary to the health and welfare of the community or substantially benefits the community in general. And that's whether or not you can hear it at that time. All right, you want to accelerate hearing of that particular regional plan amendment. Now, let's be also clear that the policy we're talking about here applies to all amendments, not just RDLs but any regional plan amendment. So any RPA that comes to you that is not part of an annual process, you have to make one of these findings for that specific amendment as to whether or not it falls within these groups. Because all of the good things that Jeremy talks about that's part of the plan can be done at the annual hearing, right? You can look at the master plan amendment, you can look at the regional plan amendment. You can look at if there's a project of regional significance. I'm going to get back, I'm going to get back and talk about the timing issue because I think that's an interesting one that I want to just give you our perspective on. But as a matter of just how the statute applies, unless you make the finding that it is either promotes health and safety or is good for the community in general to be heard at that time. So there's a temporal notion as well, that it has to go at the annual meeting. And then you can have all the other things that if someone wants a master plan amendment, you can hear those other master plan amendments or project of regional significance at that time. Now, how do you do that? And this is the timing question, is as Jeremy said, the clock runs from the date the application is complete, right? Not when it's submitted, but when it's deemed complete. Now, think about this just for a second, because I can come in then under Jeremy's proposal or the way that you've been doing things and drive timing with a master plan amendment, even though I want to make a regional plan change to facilitate what's happening. As you may, I don't know if you're aware or not, but I used to be general counsel with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, and we had some of the same deadlines. And quite honestly, if you came in with a plan amendment, or excuse me, a project or a master plan amendment for one of the local jurisdictions that was inconsistent with our regional plan, we would say, you can't come in and, it's not complete until it's actually potentially approvable, i.e. when the regional plan is changed to allow what you're asking for. Or if you don't do that, what you're doing is you're allowing a private applicant or somebody coming through one of the cities to drive your schedule of regional plan amendments with that 60-day clock. And you're creating a system where you have two statutes that conflict with each other, and you're choosing the timing provision the timing of the 60-day clock over what this plain language says, which is that all of such of those plans amendments need to happen at the annual meeting. Now, Jeremy talked a bit about, let's put this in the real world. What does this mean? As a really fun exercise, I went through all your agenda items from 2018 to the present to look and see what kind of regional plan amendments came before this body, right? Now, remember, if they're coming before you in October, your annual meeting, we're not worried about it, right? Because it meets the statute, and everything has to be heard on that October date unless it's fits one of the exceptions. So just quickly, I counted for these non-October or non-annual meeting RPAs since 2018 about 23. And about 14 of those related, or 60%, related to utility corridors. And I don't think there's an issue with looking at a utility corridor and saying either that's a public health and safety issue or the public at large benefits from the timing of that, from moving up the timing of that. That's not something. But there have been 5 amendments that requested a tier 3 to tier 2 change. Okay, just here we're dealing with a tier 2 to tier 1, the first and only one so far that I could find, non-October 5. And 2 of those, and an additional 2 were planning. There was a joint corridor issue, and then the adoption of the Washoe County population forecast amendments. And there was one change of SOI, I think pulling a couple of parcels out. I'm running out of time here, but what's key is, I think, from our perspective, is you have two statutes that both have pretty straightforward language. And one says you must hear, except for those two exceptions, you must hear annually, and the other one, regional plan amendments. And nobody is saying that if these two, nobody is saying that the 60-day requirement trumps, but that it's action forcing, and that therefore we should act inconsistently with your other statute. That we say you can't do. You can't give priority to the 60-day statute and ignore and find just as a generic policy that we like to hear things whenever they come up. That's the legislative's obligation to set that kind of policy, and they did it in 278, 027, 02727 and 8. And unfortunately, they restricted your ability to move off of that annual without a specific finding related to the project or the amendment that's coming before you. And so just very quickly, I think in our papers, in our appeal documents, we kind of went through, there is no rush on this project. There's no reason to hear it at this time versus at the annual meeting. That's the finding you have to support with facts in the record, that a golf resort is somehow critical to health and safety and to the public at large, that you move it away from what is a clear requirement to hear it at the annual meeting. So with that, I think my time is done. Thank you very much, and I can answer any questions that you might have, or I can sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Do any of the commissioners at this time have any questions for Mr. Marshall? Okay, are we good? Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing. Do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, we have two. First up is Cindy Chandler, followed by Donald Zucker.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Cindy Chandler for the record. I oppose the master plan amendment and the amendment to the regional land designation from Tier 2 to Tier 1, but support the appeal. The Regional Planning Commission approved with no evidence supporting its findings that the Lake Ridge Hotel Resort is necessary to the health and welfare of the community, or that it is substantially benefits the community in general. Therefore, rushing this decision violates NRS 278-02728. This project directly affects the Lake Ridge community, and the proposed hotel resort would harm residents' health and welfare and overall quality of living, and has direct impact on anyone in Washoe County that drives the McCarran Loop near Plumas. Quality of life is one of the major goals of your master plan, and similar in the Reno master plan. Traffic, noise, and light pollution, the urban heat island effect, preservation of open space, the protection of wildlife are key quality of living indicators that must be addressed in the conformance review. Just a few days ago, another accident occurred on the corner of Plumas and McCarran, F-rated intersection. Though owned and controlled by NDOT, all government officials have a responsibility to review and deny rezonings projects that knowingly contribute to the existing safety issue, regardless of the level of impact. No consideration was even made in the evaluation concerning the 273-unit apartment complex that is currently being built at the corner of the major intersection, with an egress and ingress on Plumas less than 50 feet from the proposed hotel resort sole access road. The protection of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County residents, regardless of who owns the adjacent road, rests on your vote today. Instead of the blame game, that has dominated city officials' dialogue and completely ignored residents' safety and quality of living, you can make a change today. NRS 2780274 and Goal 2 of the Regional Master Plan address conservation, preservation of open space, and wildlife habitat for this project. Conformance of all findings should only focus on the 12.5 acres, excluding the remaining golf course, which has not been the case. You can change that today. I have opposed the Lake Ridge Hotel project from the beginning. At every stage, residents have presented data and evidence from the Reno Master Plan and the Regional Master Plan. Yet each vote to advance this project has relied on vague and ambiguous findings. It is my hope that you can put aside your biases and look at up-to-date objective data from all parties, not just the applications, and all conformance findings, and approve the appeal and deny the master plan amendment and the amendment to the regional land designation from Tier 2 to Tier 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, next up, we have Donald Zucker.
Thank you. For the record, my name's Don Zucker. I'm opposed to this development, agenda items C, D, and E. I'm a resident adjacent to the golf course. I'm not going to go over all of the things that have been discussed, especially at the City of Reno meetings. They've been presented to all of you. I think this is going to expand to the Sparks area and golf courses there if this isn't given more thoughtful consideration. And certainly from my perspective, the fire risks, the congestion risks to the traffic have all been discussed, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time on that. But certainly, this is not necessary for the health and welfare of the community in any way whatsoever. And it also does not substantially benefit the community in general. In fact, many of the community members close by are going to be adversely impacted. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other requests to speak? Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. Just for the record, the project that we're discussing here today resides in Ward 2 of the City of Reno, which is my ward, and I've been intimately involved with it from the very, very beginning, even proposals that preceded the current one on the table. There was a previous proposal to build townhomes on the same land. Generally, the council was not supportive, and ultimately, the project was withdrawn. It's a mystery to me why this project, for even a more intense use, was approved by the council. I did not support it. But I want to speak, therefore, to the specifics about advancing the timing of our consideration. And I also want to make a request that, given I think I'm the only one here representing that area, including on the county, that I would love to offer a motion at the front end. You know, we'll see if that flies. But I just want to speak to the issues that have been brought up here. And I want to go back to when we adopted the tiers. So when we adopted the tiers, I was here I've been on this board for going on now 12 years, through every up and down that we've been through. And the tiers, when they were introduced, the idea was that we would identify areas that were more ripe for development. That was in Tier 1. Those were generally areas that were already developed, areas that were within the McCarran Ring. And it did not include open space. Right? Open space was generally at a higher level tier, whether Tier 2 or Tier 3. And my understanding at that time was that when it came to amending a tier, that it would be a very thoughtful process, and it would be very unusual that we would amend a tier. Not impossible at all. And I voted to support amending tiers. I want to make that clear. However, in this case, and this specific aspect is about the timing, what I'm concerned about is there have to be these two findings, and one of them is that you have to determine that there is a benefit to the community in general and necessity of doing it at this time rather than at our annual meeting. And I tend to agree with the argument that both the appellant made as well as the public that this does not fall into the classification of a power line adjustment. It does not fall into an emergency category. It does not fall into a public health and safety category. And my recommendation would be to address it in the annual plan. I'm not saying at that time whether I'd approve it, deny it, how I would view it, but this is specific question is about the timing, right? Can we do it now? And what worries me about doing it now is that if we do anything at any time, it sort of abrogates the process that we've set up, that we would do an annual assessment looking at the entire plan that we adopted, all the tiers and how they relate to each other, and we would make a thoughtful assessment at that time. Doing it on a one-by-one as they come basis sort of negates the opportunity to do this sort of thorough, comprehensive review of the tiers. So my concern is that there's a presumption here that this project is a benefit. I don't see it that way. I don't think that there's been any evidence that so far that's been submitted to us or regional planning that it is a benefit. I understand it was approved at regional, which implies that they thought it was beneficial. But what I'm saying here is the information that we have to make a decision on has not been provided. And so, again, I don't believe that a golf resort meets the exception as stated here. I don't believe it does provide a benefit, and therefore I don't believe we should, and I'll use the word rush it through or act on it in the moment versus at the annual review period. And so I just wanted to lay that out. That's how I feel. It doesn't speak to the issue, the merits of the actual case. I'm just speaking to the timing, okay? So thank you.
Madam Chair. Yeah. Madam Chair, Jessica Prunty for the record. That might be helpful to provide my legal perspective and the statutory framework that you're operating within. Under your regional planning statute governing the development of the regional plan, Mr. Marshall is absolutely correct. It states that the regional plan will be updated every 5 years, and all regional plan amendments will be considered at the annual review period. However, there is an express exception, and that express exception is if the Regional Planning Commission makes a threshold determination that the amendment, the proposed amendment, is necessary to the health and welfare of the community or substantially benefits the community in general. First of all, this is the regional community, not just the community of the city of Reno or whatever local jurisdiction is moving or proposing the regional plan amendment. The consideration of health and welfare or a substantial benefit to the community is a very broad and inclusive consideration. Okay, many, many different factors can fall into that consideration. It's not just public safety. You can look, decision makers can look at a wide variety of factors, including surrounding compatibility with surrounding development, orderly growth and development, quality of life, community character, economic development, land use diversity, community amenities, social concerns. The playing field is very wide. I sat through the Regional Planning Commission's meeting on April 6th, and the Planning Commission did agree with the generalized concepts that, and as to this particular regional plan amendment, it was in the public health and welfare and substantially benefit the community in general to consider it now because it was driven by an underlying development proposal, the MPA. Without the MPA, this tier change would not have been proposed by the city of Reno, because the MPA is requiring an increase of density that's not allowed in Tier 2. So this is master plan amendment driven request for a regional plan amendment. And the Regional Planning Commission thought it was compelling that this body, the Regional Planning Governing Board, had a more rigorous level of review over whether or not to amend the plan. And they agreed in general that that is in the benefit of the health and welfare to consider these regional planning amendments as they come up with the underlying development proposal, because you cannot consider the regional plan amendment in a vacuum. But moreover, the Regional Planning Commission did make specific findings as to this regional plan amendment itself. They found that the proximity to Tier 1 land was in the public health and benefit. They found that the proposed amenities, whether people agree with them or not, were beneficial to the community in general. One commissioner even made a finding that she liked the idea of the hotel being a non-smoking boutique hotel and thought that that was something that the community in general needed. So the Planning Commission did make those particularized considerations. I just want to make that clear in the record before you now and hope that helps you inform your decision-making as you consider whether or not the Regional Planning Commission got it right and make your own health and welfare or substantial benefit decision.
Thank you. Go ahead,
Thank you,
Commissioner
Madam
Reese.
Chair. A couple of things. First of all, thank you for the public comments here today. I will share for the benefit of my colleagues. Ms. Dewar and I have found ourselves on opposite ends on this particular project, not because anyone had ill intention or ill motive. We just saw and wanted different things for the area. And I will say that the appellant and the folks who are opposed to the project in general have appeared at Planning Commission at the City of Reno several times, City of Reno here at the Planning Commission, and now today. And they have legitimate concerns about things that they find objectionable, mostly related to traffic, some related to fire access. And so for my part, I want to both say that those are valid things that people have concerns about. And then, of course, that what we do at any body that we serve on is we're balancing competing interests and concerns. And at every process step, that is the Planning Commission at the City of Reno, the City Council itself, then planning here, and now to our body, it has been approved, which means that very thoughtful people on this side have sat and analyzed it. And so I do not agree with the appellant's reading of NRS 287.0272. And actually, Ms. Prenti, maybe this is the fun part for you and I, as we are lawyers. We have at least 3 lawyers now who have opined on it. And I have a take that's different from Mr. Marshall's and yours. And so I'm going to read it into the record so that it's clear what I'm basing my decision on. But I have said that the appellant's reading of NRS 278.02727 cannot be squared with the plain text of the statute. The word annually establishes a floor. The commission must hold amendment hearings at least once per year, but it does not say it has to be in October or define a specific month, and nothing that restricts the commission's authority to act on a proper schedule of its own volition. To read the frequency requirement as a calendar lock is not statutory interpretation. I think that's just creative lawyering. And I commend Mr. Marshall, who also served on this body, not this body, but the planning body for us and at the city council level, but never raised this creative argument there. The structure of the statute itself refutes the argument. The legislature placed subsection 8 immediately after subsection 7, precisely to confirm that the commission may schedule a hearing on an amendment at any time upon necessity or community benefit. So that provision is surplusage under the appellant's reading of it. If subsection 7 already confined all action to a single month each year and a single meeting, there would be nothing for subsection 8 to do. And so whatever schedule cycle this commission follows in practice reflects just its own procedural regulations adopted to NRS 278.0265. Those regulations implement the statute. They do not define its outer limits, and they certainly don't create a veto right for opponents of a project to sort of push projects around on the calendar or run out the clock on them. I think our commission should reject that argument for what it is, which is a procedural delay tactic dressed up as statutory interpretation, and just simply proceed on the merits, right? And so for my part, I have already made all the findings wouldn't be necessary here at the city council level, but I'll raise them here. And that is to say that the goal was always the preservation of the golf course itself. And the applicant at the original project stage, made the case that in order for the golf course to be successful, that the development of this particular boutique hotel project would ensure that, and in fact has placed the remainder of the golf course essentially, and I'll use my term, not theirs, in a lockbox for a period of time to ensure that it would be held for the benefit of this community. And so all of the things, Ms. Prunty, that you said about what this planning commission looked at, which you sat through, I did review as well. And there was clearly an indication by them that they believe that the benefits related to the broader community and also about economic development appropriate for the site, and also the preservation of the golf course itself long term. And look, this the city council at the city of Reno has rejected other items that have come before it that might have wanted to change the character of that area. And those were because they did not inure to the benefit of preserving the golf course. At its core, it has been my position all along that the golf course should be saved, it should be preserved for future use, and that we do not want to see homes built on it. Golf courses are a very tough business. If you look around our region, you think about the Northgate Golf Course, Wild Creek, DeAndrea, which many of my Sparks colleagues have some experience with, you start to see that golf courses are a very intense land use, and as communities grow and land becomes more valuable, it starts not making economic sense for some people. So the preservation of that is very important to me, and why I have said that we need to do something that would preserve it. So again, Ms. Prunty, thank you so much for letting me speak to this topic, and Madam Chair, of course. I wasn't wanting you to believe that I didn't understand or follow the advice. I was just sort of taking a different approach than Mr. Marshall or you had taken, in as much as I believe that we have the freedom and flexibility within our own organizing structure here at this body to hear items as they are presented and make those decisions. The last thing I'll say before giving my time to colleagues is that this body meets fairly infrequently, right? We meet 6 times a year. And sometimes I suppose we have not met. And so I don't know that there's any reason why we would artificially constrain ourselves to when we would consider an item. I think, land use sometimes changes rapidly. Even the tier designations, though, have thought to them. And I think the consistency over this time with this body, because most people come to this body and they stay. I've now been on the body for approaching 8 years, not as long as Ms. Dewar or Mr. Mayor, but long enough to understand that we have a full range of options in front of us and can consider them, each one of them individually as they come and as they're presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Reese.
Madam Chair, one
Yes.
more moment. Thank you so much, Member Reese. I did just want to add in that at the beginning of the proposal, and I believe that this was set out in the staff report, it was initially proposed when this first came into regional planning that the entire golf course would be changed to Tier 1. Regional planning staff, and I'll let Dr. Smith speak to it, said no. So that is still Tier 2 land. If there was ever a proposal, even with the lockbox development agreement that was made at the City of Reno level, that would have to come back to the body for a tier change. This is only as to, I believe, the portion of the golf course that was the driving range and the clubhouse. But I'll let Jeremy Smith talk to that a little bit more specifically. But the rest of the golf course is still Tier 2 land.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Jeremy Smith, the record. So absolutely, in collaboration with our partners at the City of Reno, this is another, I think, win and upgrade in the regional plan that we did in 2019. Prior to that, we were not producing an initial review memo for projects. And so we added that in, and that lets us get in at the very beginning. And through conversation together, collectively, we thought that, given the SMU land use that was being sought and the handbook that was going to go along with it, in order to make sure that the golf course was preserved and to keep that PGOS, that we limit the footprint to the 12.5 acre site that would actually have this change and put the tier change that was necessary just there. And so it was collaborative in the beginning, and it did start out, I think, with a bigger idea, and we helped collectively to constrain that. And that's absolutely correct. So another 2019, hopefully, upgrade that's working. And I just wanted to point out again that this item, 8C, is not, if we get through this item and if, say, the appeal is denied, if that's the vote, then that leads us to item 8D, where we're actually going to be talking about the merits of the tier change and whether or not you want to adopt that into the regional plan. This does not change the tiers. This item is just to say that this body agrees with the RPC's determination that already was made that it's appropriate to to view that item 8D at this time. And so that's really what this motion that is going to be up on the screen here in a second, and also in your packet on page, I believe that would be 054 and 055. That's really what we're asking for this item, is just, do you agree with the RPC's determination or not that now is the time that we should hear this amendment, and then you're going to be able to vote on whether or not you think the amendment's a good idea at all.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Any other questions, either of legal, Dr. Smith, or Mr. Marshall? Ms. Dorr.
Yeah, since so many people have opined on this, I just wanted to address a few of the points that I don't exactly agree with. One of those is that we should I am really confining myself to the timing issue, and I'm really, unlike some of my other folks talk about the merits of the project, I will save that for later. But the timing. We said that it would be difficult to change tiers. It was a basic premise. It wasn't impossible, but it was like we were going to map the world and put, why is it not in a tier 1 already? Why? Because it was not inside the McCarran Ring. It was open space, and it was expected to remain open space. And so just saying, well, they want to do an economic development, to me, fine, let's have a conversation about that, but let's not abrogate our process. The next thing is that there are very significant issues, which we'll get into when we discuss the merits. But one of the things I want to address right now is something I believe is a bit of a red herring. If we don't, let's say, approve a thing, whether it's a hotel, houses, or whatever, that somehow the golf course will be impaired. The golf course is very productive. It's been advertised by the owners as one of the highest performing golf courses in our region. I don't think, at the end of the day, we may not have 10 golf courses, but we'll certainly have a few. I don't think we're going to go to none. There's a lot of people that like golf, including people sitting right on this board right here. So I understand the argument that, oh my gosh, if we don't allow anything to happen, then the golf course is going to go away. And of course, that is totally up to the owner, developer, but there's been offers, I think, for buyouts. There's been, to keep it in a golf course, there's been offers for other development. And then this argument that, well, it's right next to Tier 1. Yes, across the street, across McCarran, 4 major lanes of traffic is a Tier 1. But if you change this, our attorney just said, well, now we'll have Tier 1 right next to Tier 2. And what is to prevent the conversion of the rest of the golf course to Tier 1 using the same argument? Well, it's right next door. We'll reduce it to a 9-hole golf course. It'll save at least a 9-hole golf course. This is a level of incrementalism that I really struggle with. So what I'm trying to save those discussions about the merits of the project for later and to focus right now on the timing. And no one ever said, even though it's been argued here, that we would never make a tier change in the moment. I have not argued that. What I've argued is that it does not meet the premise, which is that it provides a substantial benefit to the community in general, and therefore we must do it at this time. No, I think it's premature. If we're to follow the regular order, if we allow everyone that comes in, we'll be doing no tier changes in October at the annual meeting, whenever the annual meeting is, because we'll have already done them all in the moment. So I feel that's why I said it undermines the entire laid out process. So, that's just my perspective, but I wanted to get it on the record. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Dorr. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Dorr, you said you wanted to make the first motion. I'll
sure.
respect you.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead and make it.
Don't know where we'll go with this, but my recommendation would be to grant the appeal and reverse the RPC's determination that the proposed amendment is necessary, the proposed tier amendment is necessary at this time based on the health and welfare of the community or substantially benefits the community in general. Yes, it benefits the developer. Yes, it does. But the community as a whole, given the F-roads and so on, and that the proposal shall be considered by the RPC during the 2026 annual update of the regional plan.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
So I have a motion. Can I get a second? Okay, seeing none, that motion fails. Vice Chair Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will try another motion. I move to deny the appeal and uphold the Regional Planning Commission's determination that the proposed amendment Truckee Meadows Regional. Oh, sorry. What?
You're doing a denial.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry.
Okay. So you're copying what she did. So do you want to second it?
No, the top.
Oh, I'm sorry, the top one. I apologize. I'm sorry, I got it backwards. Apologize.
I'm very easily confused right now.
That's okay, and so am I. Apologize.
So I motion to deny the appeal and uphold the RPC's determination.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
No. Do you call for opposed?
I will call for, can we please call for the vote, please?
I was just waiting for you to say all opposed.
Oh. Okay, anyone opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Or
All
nay,
right.
if
Thank
that's more
you.
appropriate.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 8D.
Madam Chair, this is Jeremy Smith, the record. Item 8D is, this is the public hearing and item for the regional plan amendment to change the 12.5 acres from Tier 2 to Tier 1. And we are going to hear from Regional Planner Chris Tolley with a presentation, and then we are going to hear from City of Reno staff with a short presentation as well as our applicant. Thank you. Chris, take it away.
Good afternoon, governing board members. Chris Tolley, TMRPA. This item is a regional plan amendment for an amendment to the existing regional land designation for the subject site. This case is Lake Ridge Resort and case number RPA 26-003. There was a pending appeal of the RPC's threshold determination regarding necessity for the hearing of the RPA portion, which we heard. Moving forward, this item, again, as Dr. Smith or Director Smith identified during the previous item, this is looking at the actual amendment to the regional land designation for the subject site. And then also there is a petition for review of the conformance review portion of this overall case, which is scheduled to be the next item and dependent on the outcome of this item. All right, to start with the overview. The proposed regional land designation would switch the subject site, and we'll get to looking at a map that's closer in, from Tier 2 to Tier 1. The Regional Planning Commission determined conformance of the proposed City of Reno Master Plan Amendment from parks, greenways, and open space to suburban mixed use. And as noted on the previous presentation, Reno City Council approved and sponsored the proposal at their January 28th meeting. The Regional Planning Commission and Regional Planning staff recommended that the RPGB adopt the proposed amendment to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. Continuing with the overview, the tier amendment was originally heard at the April 23rd RPC meeting, and as noted, the RPC recommended adoption of the proposed amendment to Tier 1. Regional Planning staff after that meeting uncovered a noticing issue with the Sparks Tribune and went through the process to renotice the case to ensure compliance with the noticing requirements. The case was reopened during the May 28th RPC meeting, and the determination by the RPC was unchanged. Again, a unanimous vote to recommend the tier amendment, which again is in front of you through this item. And then finally, regional planning staff and RPC do again recommend adoption of the proposed amendment to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. All right, moving on, here we see the actual proposed tier change. Again, the site that you see on here is a subset of the entire parcel, which I believe is 84.61 acres. So this is currently Tier 2 and proposed to switch to Tier 1. And it is approximately that 12.5 acre, again, subset. And then this amendment, as was pointed out, is necessary because the suburban mixed use in the city of Reno allows for 30 dwelling units or greater than 30 dwelling units per acre, and that is the cap for the regional land designation as it is for Tier 2. And to look at the conformance review side of this, so again, switching from parks for this, again, this 12.5 acre subject site, switching from parks, greenways, and open space to suburban mixed use. This is also the footprint of the Lake Ridge Resort Specific Plan District. And as identified in the material submitted, the Lake Ridge Resort Specific Plan District would allow the establishment of a golf course at the former Lake Ridge Golf Course driving range, including improvement to the existing parking areas. The golf course resort is anticipated to include a restaurant, spa, 100-room non-gaming hotel, which is approximately 4-story, 15 hotel villas, sports area including tennis and pickleballs, putting greens, pool, garden, and a new maintenance building. And while a suburban mixed use allows a wide range of potential uses, densities, and intensities, the proposal is for a very specific use, being a golf resort. Should the proposal be approved through the Regional Planning Commission as it was, and the Regional Planning Governing Board, any subsequent modifications to the SMU land use would require action by the City of Reno and the Regional Planning Commission. And that would include the potential consideration of a project of regional significance on the site. And then again, the RPC determination from their April 23rd meeting, which was for conformance of this. Gone over a lot of this, so we'll say again that the site is 12.5 acres, the consideration for the tier amendment, and the location is at 1200 Golf Course Drive. The balance of the subject parcel will remain in Tier 2. Again, we arrived at that through the process of providing comments and working with the City of Reno and the applicants. The balance of the parcel, again, will also remain parks, greenways, and open space, and that will be also applicable to the entirety of the Lake Ridge Golf Course, less the subject site. So going on to the policy considerations, primary ones we're looking at for a regional plan amendment is policy RC10, and that sets the overarching regional plan amendment findings. And then, as was alluded to in this previous item, RF5 was established during the 2019 regional plan update, and that said the criteria for switching between tiers. So we look at, again, that specific criteria based off what is being proposed. And in this instance, going from Tier 2 land to Tier 1 land. So the criteria you can see on the right is part of what we analyzed through the process. And we'll step through that analysis over the coming slides. So this is policy RC10, which sets the 7 criteria that the RPC and the RPGB look at for a proposed amendment to the regional plan. In regards to regional capacities and growth projections and existing and planned development, the proposed change to the subject site from Tier 2 land to Tier 1 land is not anticipated to significantly influence regional capacities and growth projections. And then, as noted, if at a future date the proposed development is altered, then a project of regional significance conformance review may be required if the proposed housing units or hotel rooms exceed 625 or another one of the PRS thresholds is exceeded. There are multiple residential and commercial developments in the vicinity, and the proposal fits within the character of this area. The City of Reno has reviewed the proposal and limited the overall proposal to address potential impacts to adjacent properties. And then finally, from a regional perspective, the proposal is appropriate as existing Tier 1 lands are immediately to the east, as we saw on the map and you can see here, and adjacent to a major roadway being McCarran Boulevard. The proposed MPA will support the continued operation of the existing golf course and those lands currently designated parks, greenways, and open space. Moving on to the third criteria. As part of the submittal, the City of Reno provided analysis contained in their staff report that indicated that public facilities and services required to serve the proposal are available and adequate as planned for within a 10-year timeframe as required by Regional Plan Policy PF1, List of Facility and Service Standards. And regional planning staff does not anticipate any negative fiscal impacts from the proposal. Overall, the proposal is not anticipated to significantly impact natural resources. And in regards to number 6, vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan, these were established through a collaborative, coordinated, and inclusive process with local governments, affected entities, and other stakeholders. The proposal, on balance, furthers the vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan by allowing more diversification of potential land uses to support continued operation of the existing golf course and associated privately owned parks, greenways, and open space land use. Further, the limited scope of the proposal is not anticipated to significantly impact public facilities and services. And then in regards to number 7, health and welfare of the community, the proposed amendment to the 24 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to change to Tier 1 land is not anticipated to negatively impact health and welfare of the community by allowing the establishment of the Tier 1 lands on the subject site. The amendment process would allow for the proposed City of Reno land use designation of suburban mixed use, as was noted, and again is applicable to that 12.5 acre subject site. The Reno City Council approved the proposed City of Reno Master Plan Amendment land use change from PGOS to suburban mixed use and the Lake Ridge Resort SPD at their January meeting as referenced. As part of their finding regarding the case, they determined that the proposal provides a public benefit, promotes the health and welfare of the public, and is in substantial compliance with the Reno Master Plan. Regional Planning staff also agrees with the City of Reno's health and welfare conclusions for reasons set forth in their submitted materials. And to go over the criteria for policy RF5, subject site, again, is immediately east of existing Tier 1 lands. The request allows for enhanced land use diversity and neighborhood amenities while preserving the existing golf course. Any development on the subject site would be required to, and so that was A, B, and now we're on C. Any development of the subject site would require the appropriate access roads as determined by the City of Reno and through their building permit review process. And then given multimodal transportation opportunities exist in the surrounding area, the potential connectivity improvements would be limited to the subject site. And finally, the public facilities and services required to serve the proposal are available and adequate or planned for within a 10-year timeframe as required by policy PF1. So in conclusion, the RPC and staff are again recommending adoption of the proposed amendment to the regional plan. And there was a determination regarding the actual amendment to the City of Reno Master Plan that was done at the April 23rd meeting by the Regional Planning Commission. And that overall, that proposal, the amendment to the City of Reno Master Plan is contingent on this tier determination. With that, it does conclude my presentation. However, we have the motion up there, and then I'll be followed up, I believe, by the City of Reno.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Smith. My name is Leah Picotti, and I am an associate planner with the City of Reno Development Services. And I just wanted to give a short presentation to you today so you kind of understand the extra zoning layers and the time and the process that has gone into this. So I don't want to duplicate what's already been said, but just to give you some high-level information. Again, this is a 12.5 acre site that is part of an 85 acre parcel that encompasses the golfing area on the south side of McCarran. Overall, the golf course itself is about 155 acres. So when we're looking at things like preserving the open space, we're not just looking at that remaining 72 acres of this parcel, but we're also looking at all that remaining acreage on the northern portion. So when this project came before us, we essentially had two requests that the City of Reno looked at. And that was the master plan amendment from the Parks, Greenways, and Open Space to suburban mixed use, but also a zoning map amendment to a specific plan district. And I think that that's really important when we're looking at the tier and the master plan, because that zoning layer is what added the restrictions to this to ensure that this acts as a single entity with the golf course in perpetuity and benefits the community in ways that economically preserving the open space, but also within that specific plan district handbook, we essentially just looked at everything that we could possibly do to make this project the best we possibly could. So we looked at what was required for open space, and we said, let's increase that. We looked at what was required for tree preservation, and we said, let's increase that. We looked at buffering, we looked at landscaping, we looked at everything that we could possibly do, and we said, let's make it better. So when we started looking at this master plan amendment, this is a much larger picture of the region there. But that arrow points to the site. And you can see that it's currently the light blue, which is that tier 2. Everything you see on your screen that is that bright blue color is the tier 1. That circle that you see over on the right-hand side, that's Meadowood Mall. So everything from Meadowood Mall all the way along the south side of McCarran, all the way up until the golf course, is currently that tier 1. And the reason that that tier 1 is required for this is because suburban mixed use, which let me go back to that slide, hold on. That suburban mixed use that goes all the way from Meadowood Mall, all the way up into this site, stops just short of it. But that suburban mixed use allows for a density of 30 dwelling units per acre. Now, this isn't a project that's requiring 30 dwelling units per acre, but with that specific plan district, they're looking at an underlying base zone of mixed-use suburban, which is what sparks the change in the master plan and what sparks the change in the tier. So I'll talk real high level about the zoning map amendment for a second. So this is that Parks, Greenways, and Open Space to SPD. Again, when we looked at this, we built in every protection that we possibly could. We improved upon any standards and regulations that we found in code that would be applicable. But one of the things that we did here is we said that if development does not occur within, it was originally 10 years, it was shortened to 7-year timeframe, the handbook will become invalid and the site will revert back to that Parks, Greenways, and Open Space. So this is a built-in protection that says if this specific plan district that only allows the hotel and the spa and a few other of those outdoor recreation amenities does not pan out, this just goes back to PGOS. And yes, that underlying zoning will still be suburban mixed use, but with the zoning district of Parks, Greenways, and Open Space, somebody would have to come back and go through the whole city process again to change that. And it would be back before our planning commission and it would be back before our city council for a review of that. So it's not like there can be a bait and switch here. When our planning commission and our city council looked at this, we have like 45 findings that have to be made because we have our general review criteria, we have our master plan amendment findings, we have our zoning map amendment findings, and then we have our specific plan district findings. So rather than showing you all 40 of those, I kind of just said, hey, high level, this is what this is. So I'll go through this fairly quickly. But for the master plan amendment, substantial conformance with the master plan. Yes, that SMU offers the diverse mix of commercial and residential. That specifically says in our master plan that the size, density, and mix of uses vary in that SMU zone, depending on access, location, and character of surrounding areas. So again, you have that SMU designation, but the zoning of that specific plan district really limit what is actually allowed to happen on this property. Is it compatible with the surrounding area? Yes, again, we looked at everything in Reno Municipal Code and ensured that that golf resort development is compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods while allowing the site to function as a visitor serving amenity as well. Regarding public services, there's no change. This is an infill site. We have all the infrastructure available. Zoning map amendment. Again, there are several findings, but health, safety, and welfare. We analyzed traffic, we analyzed grading, drainage, retaining walls, utility capacity, residential adjacency standards with enhanced buffering. We looked at light controls, we looked at compatibility measures, we looked at every single thing we could. And as written, this specific plan district, again, exceeds everything that would be in Reno Municipal Code. We have the infrastructure and the public services. We have the environmental protection. The golf course is preserved as open space. Tree preservation, again, we're requiring 2 trees to be planted for every one that's removed. That's a lot. That's twice what code requires. We have hydrology and drainage requirements. Regarding neighborhood compatibility, we have the enhanced setbacks, we have height transitions, we have landscape buffers, we're requiring shading analysis, we have controls on signage, we have additional screening requirements. And regarding housing, recreation, and planning goals, this project supports the master plan and the regional plan objectives. It preserves recreational amenities, 155 acres of recreational amenities in the city of Reno, and promotes the coordinated growth of this city. As we all know, it is growing. Specific plan district recommended findings. Does it conform with state law? Yes, it provides zoning regulations in accordance with the proposed master land for the land use. Does it conform to the master plan? Yes. Adequate public facilities, infrastructure, particularly all of the policies promoting infill, redevelopment, efficient use of existing infrastructure, and supporting our local businesses. Does it meet the intent of an SPD? Yes. Do the design, and this is specifically directly out of code, design and configuration will accommodate projects or plans where the design and configuration of the uses are so arranged as to constitute a single functional integrated entity, which is exactly what this project is. Does it address a unique situation, provide a benefit? Yes. The driving range is closed. It's been closed for 3 years. The project accommodates resort-type style amenities while incorporating design standards, buffers, setbacks, and screening to ensure compatibility with those adjacent residential uses. Again, just to go over that process. So the city of Reno received this application a little over a year ago. They've done quite a bit of public outreach, including holding a master plan community meeting where I believe about 250 people attended. They went to our Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board in August of 25. We went to the Planning Commission on November 20th, where they got a recommendation of approval. And I just want to point out that was like a 6-hour meeting. We went to City Council in January for the master plan resolution was adopted and that SPD handbook was introduced. And then we went back in February where the SPD and zoning map amendment were adopted, contingent upon the master plan amendment and the tier change, which brings us to why we're here today. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that has presentations? Are we good? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, and I'm going to open the public hearing. Do we have any requests to speak?
We do. First up, we have John Marshall, and then we have Paul Liparelli.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is John Marshall on behalf of Save Lake Ridge Open Space. And the first issue I want to talk to you about is the scope of your analysis. Because as you heard from both the TMRPA representative and the City of Reno representative, it is critical for them, in order to make their findings, to talk to you about zoning and what the SPD handbook says. But that's not what's before you. In fact, zoning is never before you. You only go down so far as land capabilities and maybe occasionally a project of regional significance. But zoning doesn't come before you. So what that means is that the City of Reno can change any of the zoning, any of the SPD handbook without, and any of the things you're relying on to make your findings, without it coming back before you. So everything that you, in our perspective, you can't rely to make your findings on the specifics of the zoning and in particular of the SPD handbook, right? What you need to look at is what Tier 1 might allow. And I'm going to, for the sake of kind of logical argument here, combine some of the comments on the next item, which is the master plan amendment, going from PGOS, public or open space, to SMU. You have to look at what you're moving to, not how that's further modified by what the City of Reno may or may not do or change in the future. So that's looking at the change from Tier 1 to Tier 2, and the change from PGOS to open space. Change from PGOS to open space to SMU. Excuse me, I got that backwards. And I think it's clear that the planner, the staff report, realize that SMU and also, Tier 1 lands allows a wide range of uses and densities and intensities, while the current proposal is just a golf course resort before you. So that's a recognition to us that what's really at stake here is not necessarily, or what you must consider is the full range of Tier 1 impacts and SMU uses and densities and intensities without being modified by the SPD zoning, because that can change at any time without it coming back to you. And so therefore, we think you can't base your findings on the applicable zoning because you'll never see it again if it's just a zone change. So with that, I want to switch down now to what we believe is the inconsistencies with the regional plan for both Tier 1, Tier 2, and the SMU change. And first talk about regional form. Regional form in some of its basic approach and objectives is to preserve and protect existing neighborhoods, while at the same time allowing some flexibility for additional development. The resort as proposed, just in and of itself, and as modified by SPD, is inconsistent from our perspective with preserving and protecting existing neighborhoods. And for a number of reasons. Noise. You've seen in our materials the talking about the fact that now this place basically shuts down. There isn't a whole lot that happens after dark when golfing stops. There are some commercial activities existing, but all those right now are non-conforming uses. And so what's going to happen is if it becomes conforming with the SMU, then it can be increased, of course. So all those changes are happening right adjacent, as you saw from the maps, 2 or 3 existing neighborhoods. It's also going to change lighting. We're basically doubling or tripling the parking lot area that now is going to be lighted, and the increase in the number of lights. Internal traffic is going to increase, as well as I'm going to talk about external traffic. Scenic impacts associated with the erection of 4-story buildings and interfering with views and degrading views across the landscape. And what's also critical is you saw that the Tier 2 boundary, which was at the eastern end of the golf course, is now at the western side of that 12-acre parcel. In other words, adjacent to other Tier 2 lands. So we don't think you analyzed appropriately the shift from the line from being separated from the neighborhoods by the open space to now being adjacent to Tier 1 lands, those Tier 2 lands. Now let's talk about our concerns with traffic. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Our main point is this. The finding is entirely based upon a inclusion of the McCarran widening in the 10-year FTIP, RTIP, I can't remember which one, and the regional transportation plan. Now, kind of at face value, that, if it weren't for other factors, that might be significant. But the real issue that we have here is the fact that no one believes that there's adequate funding. And that was clear at the Reno Planning Commission meeting, where the fear was that it's not going to go through. And so you're going to have these traffic impacts. The construction of this development is going to move this intersection to an F, the Plumas-McCarran intersection to an F condition. Unless, and it's going to stay an F unless McCarran is widened. The Planning Commission really felt like that was just not going to happen within a reasonable time frame. And so they came up, that the developer came up with this free right additional mitigation measure to try to keep improvements away from generating an F impact. The problem with the free right, which is going north on Plumas and turning right on eastbound McCarran, is the fact that the eastbound McCarran at the peak hour, which is when you need to, they gauge your traffic measurements, is going to stack all the way back to Plumas. And so there's nowhere for the cars that want to take advantage of the free right to go. Additionally, there's going to be backup on northbound Plumas, especially because you have a new exit from the development across Plumas, plus you have the traffic coming out of Golf Course Drive. And that intersection, as we showed with our own wonderful diagrams that were attached to the comments, that the stacking takes away any advantage a free right might give. And finally, in my last minute, and then I'll turn it over to Paul to really address the issue regarding the loss of open space and the deed restriction. Yes, the open space is privately owned, but Reno staff recognize the vast importance of it. This open space, and this is a quote, also provides protection of scenic and environmental quality. And so to this point, while it is a private property and business, the driving range and open space interlineated also provides another level of OS, as it is a scenic area and is not built and not a built environment. It also provides benefits to air quality and traffic. So that's how the City of Reno staff thought about the driving range open space. Now I'll turn it over to Paul.
Next up, we have Paul Liparelli.
Hi, Paul Liparelli.
Hold on just a moment, okay? Because we've got some timing here, okay? So,
Yeah,
go
Madam,
ahead, Dr. Smith.
Madam Chair, Director Smith, for the record, our understanding is that you guys had a request for the group for 10 minutes. Our bylaws indicate that if you make the request, we can grant you the 10 minutes. The chair can do that. Otherwise, it's the 3 minutes, or if you're representing a separate group, up to 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, how about this? I think I can finish in 5 minutes, and I won't speak again under item E, which I also signed up to do. So if I can finish my remarks in 5 minutes, you won't have to see me again.
You go right ahead, thank you.
Thank you. I represent Save Lake Ridge Open Space, as does Mr. Marshall, and I spent 28 years as a public lawyer. Some of that work involved defending the actions of boards in making development and planning decisions, and I can tell you the key to doing that is the findings. The findings. Here, the findings have become insufficient, and that necessitates not approving the regional plan amendment, which is item 8D, and also, as established by the petition for review, not finding that the regional plan has been met. The conformance of the master plan change has been met. So the hotel project consumes about 12 acres, about the same size as Manzanita Park, just a couple of miles from the site. It used to be a driving range, and it got closed because golf balls were hitting the property adjacent to the driving range, and there was a lawsuit, and it was settled, and the driving range was closed. So now it's just open space, zoned open space and used as open space. If the project approvals are granted, the golf course will perpetuate 142 acres of open space. No small thing, for sure. But that was the key to the city of Reno's approval of the project applications was that the golf course would remain and it would stay open space. The proposal to amend the Reno Master Plan requires the city council to make those findings, and the Regional Planning Commission, and now your staff at the governing board, relied on the findings that the city of Reno made. That's in the record, and they're building on top of findings already made. Your staff report notes that the city of Reno has reviewed the proposal and limited the overall proposal to reduce impacts to adjacent property. That's in your staff report. They're relying on what the city of Reno did. Regional planning staff also agrees with the city of Reno's health and welfare conclusions for the reasons set forth in their submitted materials. Again, your staff relying on city of Reno's findings. So the Duncan family has promised not to develop the golf course. And that's fine, because we don't think they will. They're building this hotel as an enhancement to the golf course. But what if the next owner is a private equity group with no connection to the community? The need for the golf course protection becomes paramount. So on January 28th, the city council approved the project, and the maker of the motion for approval stated while making the motion that he couldn't make the findings for the approval without some protection of the golf course. That was the key finding, again, that word finding, to approving what was proposed. In the absence of a deed restriction, he couldn't make the findings concerning the preservation of trees and open space, and also all the findings that are necessary for the SPD, which include substantial benefit to the city. The fix was the deed restriction. It's 25 years, starting at the certificate of occupancy of the hotel, and it's memorialized in the SPD handbook. So far, so good. But nothing in the deed restriction language as offered during the meeting says anything about who has the right to enforce it. So we asked Duncan Golf, will you include a provision in your deed restriction giving someone the right to enforce it? The answer was no. Why? We asked the city of Reno on second reading of the SPD, will you put language in the deed restriction giving someone the right to enforce it? City council said no. Why? Well, some people say we have standing, we'll be able to sue. Yeah, standing gets you in the door of the courthouse. But past that, you need a right of enforcement. We know what that looks like because when Duncan Golf settled the lawsuit involving the driving range, they promised not to operate a driving range on the restricted property. And the security for that was a deed restriction. And the deed restriction says that the beneficiary will, quote, have the right to enforce all the provisions of the declaration. Without any enforcement mechanism for the deed restriction, all the findings that are based on that fail. It's cheesecloth. I'll take questions now, of course, and I'm available to come back up if you have some during your deliberations.
Thank you, Mr. Liparelli. Any further public comment?
Yes, we have two more. First up is Dan Clark, followed by Cindy Chandler.
Great.
Hi, my name's Dan Clark. I live at on Lake Ridge Terrace. It's right in the near the intersection of South McCarran and Plumas. And I think the points have already been made that I plan to make. I just have a couple of additions. One, I'm looking at it from the perspective of an older person who lives there, and there are quite a few of us that live in Lake Ridge Terrace. We like to go out and walk. You know, never mind the traffic, which is terrific on McCarran. It's nonstop. It's very noisy. It's increasing on Plumas. There's a apartment complex going in on the south side of McCarran that's going to create a lot more traffic. We have this proposal, which is going to create a lot more traffic. Right now, it's hard to walk or to ride a bicycle in the area. It's just going to get worse. And I'd just like to speak on behalf of the older community that lives there that likes to get out and walk and ride our bicycles that's going to be impacted by this. So I would suggest you reject the proposal for the development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Cindy Chandler.
Cindy Chandler, hello again. I just want to address, first of all, I'm a resident. And what's very frustrating is I'm not a politician. And I know I come from a compliance background, so I understand what you have to look at. But there's a lot within that compliance that you're not seeing. John just mentioned some of it. There's so much more that I wish you would consider going beyond just those planning commission write-ups. Ms. Bacati did a great job, a great presentation. She truly worked hard to get this thing passed. What about the residents? What about the voting public? What about what's the compatibility of that community? I was at the planning commission when she was asked about compatibility. And she stated, and you can look in the video, there were no quantifiable standards, so we use similar uses. That bothered me because as a resident and as a compliance person, there were compliant within the law that she could have done. And I say she, but she represents, so it's not personal to her. But she did work hard, and everyone has made it a point to go above and beyond to pass this, which is a number one concern as a resident that I thought we were important in this process. She mentioned the 7-year, and then if they don't do anything, that it can go back to PGSO. Well, guess what? What she failed to tell you also is that they can ask for an extension. So that's not reality as well. It's only, we omit things by choice. Also, this resort sounds lovely, but if you physically go to the location, that is not the location that it's suited for. This area has, when you put in a pickleball, it's 30 feet from a resident's home. You're already Reno is facing noise problems down in downtown and all the complaints and ordinances. They're farther away than these residents will be if you decide to vote in favor of this. The evening venues, we were told by Duncan at one of his community meetings that I was present at, and we do have audio of. There was not going to be any evening venues. Well, now there's going to be evening venues. There's going to be a rooftop bar. When you look at the proximity from the homes, 100 to 150 feet from the homes, and it could go to 10 p.m., and you could get a special permit to go to 11 p.m. The operations they said it was conducive to all the other stores and restaurants and all that in the local area. This is a 24/7 operation on a narrow street. You go through the residents. All of the other ones have timelines. So I really hope that you really reconsider and you vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back.
Madam Chair, Jessica Prenti, legal counsel, just for the record. A couple points in regards to the comments regarding zoning and your consideration of that. First of all, this body is entitled to receive any and all information it seeks to help inform its decision-making. Regional planning does not have authority over zoning decisions. Mr. Marshall is absolutely right by that. However, I would like you to remember that our statutory regional scheme is a top-down. You adopt the regional plan, you make changes to it, then the local jurisdictions and affected entities must make sure their plans conform to the regional plan. And then there's a statute in our regional planning statutes that require that all zoning ordinances conform with that master plan. So I just wanted to make that really clear for the record. And additionally, that information might be helpful in making the findings of the regional plan amendments as far as land use diversity and existing and planned development. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dorr.
Thank you. I just want to give you perspective. Most of you were not at the hearings that the City of Reno experienced, nor the Planning Commission experienced. I want to start with the fact that the Lake Ridge PUD, Plan Unit Development, is the oldest plan unit development in the Reno-Sparks area. It was started in the 70s. It was very comprehensive, very well thought out. It had areas of open space, single family, multifamily, apartments. It had it all. And it was very well thought out, and many people were attracted to this living. Now, hundreds of people showed up to the hearings. We have just a few here. And that is because I think that ultimately the City of Reno did approve the development. Not all of us, though. Myself and others on council, and also virtually hundreds of people that made comments, did not agree with these changes. One of the things that I've struggled with as a council member is this whole issue of property rights. So in this particular development, we have a privately owned golf course embedded in hundreds of privately owned homes. And a lot of the argument made at the meeting was that those property rights of those individual homes would be harmed. And the question is, to what level can you impact other people's property rights while trying to exercise your own? There were comments about how close things are. Well, I've gone to the site from several angles, up at the houses, at the location. And bottom line, this hotel is being plunked in the middle of a housing development. It's not on the edge. It's in the middle. It is surrounded by homes. Many of the homes are 50 feet from the hotel, 50 feet. And I like you to imagine your own home, wherever you live, whether it's an apartment or a single family, multifamily, and having in your development of many homes, a hotel right in the middle of it. That's 24 hours, that's signs, that's people coming and going, that's entertainment, as the last speaker mentioned. Now, that really doesn't result in much buffering. They were talk about, well, we'll put in some trees. And while everyone knows I love trees, I've never advocated them as very good buffers. They might be a visual screen, but they certainly do nothing for noise, especially in this type of setting. I want to speak to the issue. We heard from Ms. Bacati. She was very persuasive. She made it sound like absolutely every issue had been addressed. Well, every issue was not addressed. And while I admire the appellants, they actually understated the case. They said if this is built, that this intersection at McCarran and Plumas will go to a F intersection. No, it is an F intersection today, in today's world. And that is before about 278 apartments are built right there at the intersection. That is before this project is built. We've had many discussions with RTC about widening McCarran. And sure, they're up for it. They even did a draft design. But they've stated over and over, it is not in their 5-year plan. They do not have money for this project. As you know, they've just finished some major projects like the Arlington Bridge that just opened. They're using their money for big regional efforts, but not this one in particular. And what I wanted to do is just go to these findings, because I agree with the speaker. I've spent my time on council and at this board going back to the findings and saying, does this conform with the findings? And so I'd just like to run through them very quickly. I was not able to make an assessment that this project and this tier change conform with the findings, and I want to list them out for you. In terms of regional capacity and growth projections, we already have at this intersection a 278-unit apartment complex being built now, with no adjustment to the roads. The speaker comment about this free right-hand turn that was offered. Well, I live just blocks from there. You cannot turn onto McCarran, whether it's free or not, because often the traffic is just dead stopped. You know, you're in a non-moving traffic jam. It talks about existing and planned development. Well, this project has not considered the approved but yet to be built, under construction now, development of this apartment complex. It talks about existing and planned public facility and service availability, timing, adequacy, fiscal impacts. This project is going to have many impacts that are inconsistent with the plan. You know, Ms. Prunty said earlier, well, these findings are very broad, and the broadness of the findings gives us latitude to say in our judgment, and I have a lot of experience to exercise my judgment, does this conform or not? And I do not believe it conforms with these findings. The intergovernmental impacts, well, who are we talking about here? McCarran is embedded in the city of Reno. Right now, it has tremendous speeding. When the hours of 10 to midnight, we have all kind of speed racers on McCarran when there isn't the regular traffic. And who are we talking about? Well, there's a lot of finger pointing. Is it City of Reno? No, this is a state-owned highway. That is NDOT, okay? NDOT works with RTC, but they basically say it's NDOT. That's one reason RTC doesn't have money to address these things. And who is to enforce? Well, that was the Nevada Highway Patrol, now the Nevada State Police. So there's a tremendous amount of intergovernmental impacts about who's in charge of widening it, paying for it, and enforcing it. In terms of the health and welfare, I'll just end with that on these findings. One of the speakers mentioned that a number of collisions. Well, the city of Reno's had numerous meetings, and we have another one coming right up about how many accidents have been on McCarran and the impacts to those people's health, which some of them have died, right? Some of them have been seriously injured because we have failed to have adequate infrastructure. With all due respect to Ms. Picotti, I do not agree that the infrastructure's there or is going to be addressed anytime soon. And then finally, on the tier issues, I just want to take issue with two of them. One of them, there are only four. Yes, it's proximity to Tier 1 land, and every time we move that boundary, well, it brings more land into proximity to Tier 1 land. But the issue I have is with item C, which is the potential for connectivity to existing or planned multimodal transportation opportunities. Well, in theory, there can be a bus that comes down McCarran, but the real issue, it talks about sidewalks, you heard from the gentleman. And remember, each of these people speaking here today, there were probably 30 people that made their same points in different ways. 30 for each one of them. Hundreds of people have opined that this is not a good development. D, an evaluation of the availability and adequacy of public facilities and services. It just ain't there. And to compound the problem, the access road to this hotel, to the 15 dwellings in addition to the hotel, to all the recreational amenities, is what I would call 1.5 lane road that goes up to the clubhouse now. It has been impinged upon by development by Toll Brothers, of which allowed parking on this road. That makes it almost a 1-lane road. The golf course bears no responsibility for maintaining this road, even though the road would go to their proposed project. They managed to off that onto the HOA of the new townhomes and said they're responsible to maintain this road. So you have an inadequacy within and a very strong inadequacy without. And so these are about the findings. Can anybody with a straight face say, yeah, the infrastructure's there, it's a great place, it can take this level of development? And I don't think so. And many people agreed with me. In fact, let's put it differently. I agreed with them. I mean, at the hearing, I was listening to what they said. I've gone out to the site numerous times. So in terms of meeting the findings, I do not believe it does. It allows an intensification. It enhances one group's property rights, but it minimizes or minimizes other people's property rights in terms of their peaceful enjoyment of their property. Many of them have lived there 30 and 40 years, and to have a hotel within 50 feet of your property and to have a 24/7 operation within 50 feet of your own property is really, I think, extremely egregious. Now, do I agree that they could expand the clubhouse all day long? Do I think they could add recreational amenities? I do. Could they enhance the golf course in a variety of ways? Yes, they could. But put this level of intensification of 15 villas, a 4-story hotel, 100 rooms, signage, lighting, parking, I think is a bridge too far. So I'm not able to make the findings, and these are specifically the regional plan findings, the tier change findings. I've already laid down my objections at our findings that have to do with the master plan and the zoning change, the SBT change. So, I would not be a good councilwoman if I did not speak up here and express what has happened and how I view it, given my responsibility to represent the residents of Ward 2. That is my job. And even if I wasn't in their position and all I was a resident, which I will be soon in 6 months, right? I would still have an objection. I live very close to this project. I still have to travel McCarran, Plumas on a daily basis. It's insufficient. So with that, my colleagues, I recommend you take a hard look at this and understand what I'm saying. I have approved many developments in 12 years. This does not meet the test in my perspective. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Oops. Go ahead. Mr.
Thank
Reese.
you, Madam Chair. I'll do a couple things. First is I want to make sure that the comments that I have previously made on this project at the City of Reno, which relate to many similar findings, would be incorporated by reference here for the benefit of those who might want to look at those later. I will say Ms. Doer is a tenacious advocate and a dear friend, and on this project we have had to disagree. There is no one better to advocate for the specific worldview of Ward 2 than Ms. Doer. And yet I find myself trying to evaluate the project at this stage for the regional impacts that it has. And so I want to go through the review criteria a couple of ways and maybe start with the first one, which is the regional capacities and growth projections, and say that thankfully, due to Mayor Lawson's leadership and my efforts at the RTC, that this section of McCarran is going to be improved dramatically before the project is built. And so that's a condition of it. If those conditions are not met, although they will be, because at the RTC we have voted to ensure that they are included in our 5-year planning process, and hopefully those improvements will be coming in the next 2 years, which is what I committed to do there at the RTC. So those capacity and growth projections and related issues involving the traffic or intensity of it, I think are met by that. Certainly the applicant has also agreed to this right turn condition. I'm not sure that will be required because at the end of the day, RTC is already moving forward with the planning process for improvements to that stretch of McCarran. The second thing, and I won't mention all of them, but I'll continue down the list, about the natural resources. I think that this does meet that finding, and I certainly can meet the review criteria based on that finding because I believe that it ensures the preservation of the PGOS larger parcel, which is adjacent to it. I, of course, was the person who made a number of these conditions at the Reno City Council level that Mr. Liparelli referred to without naming me, but I will just say that those conditions, because of the restrictions that were made, were allowed me to be comfortable with the findings. The intergovernmental impacts have been mentioned a number of different ways. Some of them are about the provision of police and public safety, but also should be noted that Reno Fire Department opined that the project meets the necessity and requirements of the Reno Fire Department, and Reno Fire Marshal spoke in favor of that. The next one is vision, and goals, and policy of the regional plan. And of course, the difficulty with the regional plan and the documents of this nature are some people use them as a sword and some people use them as a shield. I think that means that people pick and choose the parts of the regional plan that they think most helps them to either oppose a project or support it. I think what that really does is it leaves the heavy burden on those of us on this side of the dais to make those decisions and balance the issues that they see there. And for my part, I have concluded that this meets both the vision and goals and policies of the regional plan in a number of different ways as it relates to the preservation of open space and also economic development. And then the last issue is health and welfare of the community. Again, we had a number of folks, including golfers and people who do live in Lake Ridge, that were supportive of it. Yes, some folks do not appreciate change, and they think it should be like a time capsule from when it was built in the Topals, designed it as they did. But other people spoke in favor of it, and certainly the golf community was well represented in their desire to see this project move forward. And again, health and welfare of the community, those are very nebulous terms. And again, people use them for whatever purpose they want. For my purpose, I have made the determination that it meets the standards applicable to the findings required in both the regional planning conformance review analysis, the policy RC10, and the RPGB's own evaluative documents for regional plan amendments.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have any questions? Does anybody have any questions of anybody that presented, commented, or anything like that? Okay,
I have one question, and it's actually for our staff.
go right ahead.
I would just like to, I think it would be useful to put on the record, what is Tier 2 and what is Tier 1? What are we talking about here? What is different? What goes from not being allowed in PGOS and Tier 2 to now being allowed in Tier 1? And as part of that, I'm just going to share a quick little story. Once upon a time on the property nearby, I was asked to support a zone change to facilitate the development of actually renovation of Lake Ridge Golf Club, the club, which is across the street from this. So it's the tennis club. That's what I'm talking about. And I was told, oh, we desperately need a zone change to general commercial because we want a restaurant on the site. That'll help the site. And so wanting to lean in, wanting to help develop the support the tennis club, et cetera, I said, sure. But what came along with that was an increase in height to 65 feet and all kinds of other things that were never discussed, right? But what was discussed was a restaurant. And so I leaned in and I said, yes, I will help support a zone change on this site next door to this golf course we're talking about to general commercial. But what happened? No restaurant happened. What happened was 65-foot tall apartment buildings, loss of the tennis club entirely. And so why I'm asking this question is often we will work with people to try to achieve what they want to do, as I have myself, only to find out that what they're really looking for is something else in that category and not the thing that's stated on the record. So that's why I'm asking you if you could answer. Thanks.
Absolutely. This is Jeremy Smith for the record. So the tiering concept, the regional land designations exist in Chapter 3, Section 2, Regional Form section. And the objectives of that section are to limit premature expansion of development into undeveloped areas, preserve neighborhoods and revitalize urban areas, direct new housing, businesses, and growth to established neighborhoods and older urban areas, classify future land uses by density or intensity based on projected need, compatibility, and availability to serve, and allow for a variety of uses and address mixed use and transit-oriented development. So that's generally what we're trying to do with regional form. Specifically for this one, I can read you the definition of Tier 1 versus Tier 2 land.
So what is it today? Tier 2, right?
Today it's Tier 2. So
what is that?
Tier 2 is an area within TMSA where there is generally less dense development occurring at suburban levels with some higher density nodes, and third in the priority hierarchy for development. A variety of residential and non-residential uses exist in this area. Public facility and service provision is currently in place or is planned. There is a desire to have connectivity to Tier 1 lands and mixed-use core through multimodal means. So that's our definition of Tier 2. For Tier 1, it's the area within the TMSA where moderate varying range development is expected, and number 2 in the priority hierarchy for development. A variety of residential and non-residential uses exist in this area. A majority of the area within this tier is already developed or within close proximity to existing development. Public facilities and services are generally in place. This area is mostly served by transit or has multimodal connectivity. And then I would just follow that finally with the concept put forth in Table 3.1, which is from policy RF3, so the third policy in that section, and it talks about the density and intensity standards. And so for Tier 2 land, there is no minimum density of dwelling units per acre, and the maximum would be 30 dwelling units per acre. The non-residential standards are none, so we don't have an intensity standard there. In Tier 1 land, the minimum density is the existing density. So we don't want to see Tier 1 land's density diminished. We're trying to utilize that land. And then there is no maximum density for
No maximum density.
Tier 1.
Okay.
That's correct.
I think that's the key issue here for me, is just that there's, as my colleague, Mr. Reese likes to say, there's a floor but no ceiling. So in other words, the sky's the limit for intensity of development, and that is deeply concerning to me. I've been in this game long enough to know that there are some gotchas built in, and that people, well-meaning people, can do a thing to help a developer only to have it backfire and get into an unintended situation. And I'm not saying this developer, but I'm saying a future developer potentially that can happen. And that's what happens when you upzone or increase tiers and you don't have a cap, you don't have a maximum. So that's it. I don't want to belabor the point. I just wanted to explain some of my concerns about the changes being proposed. Thanks.
Can I just
Go right ahead.
Jeremy Smith, the record, and that is absolutely true. And one of the things that we're working on collaboratively with the city is to address this concept of the suburban mixed use land use, which is really, we think, is appropriate for Tier 2. And in fact, it even says that in its definition in the Reno Master Plan, that residential development at a density greater than 30 dwelling units per acre is appropriate in areas that are intensely developed already and
like
near
the
transit.
Lake Ridge apartments or something like that.
Well, I think probably the idea is more intense than that, and that in fact under Tier 2 with some of the other land uses that could have gone through there, like if it was for housing, it could have gone to mixed neighborhood or multifamily neighborhood, and that would have been appropriate in Tier 2, and it has that 30-unit dwelling unit cap. So I just wanted to point out that we're aware of this suburban mixed use and Tier 2 kind of, I don't want to call it a conflict, but it's just a nuance that I think we're addressing, and it's not done yet, but it has been identified as a scheduled addition for our conformance review of City of Reno's master plan. So it's not something that's not on the radar. We're working on it, but at this time, it does not have a cap, and so thus we needed a tiering mechanism there to allow for that for this, request.
Thank you. Are you good? Okay. Anyone else? Go right ahead, Mr.
Let me
Lawson.
take a stab at this. We put the tiering in because of the sphere of influence problems we were having. I mean, that was the serious issue when this guy's responsible, and that happened quite often. And we didn't know whether Washoe County, the state, Sparks, who was in charge. So the tiering came to address that issue, and we did away with sphere of influence. We don't make ordinance for the city of Reno. I mean, that's bottom line. And it's up to the city of Reno, in my mind, to address the concerns of their citizens. And because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know. We can't plan that far ahead. We have a handbook that's 25 years old in Sparks that is not even applicable anymore. So that long-term, 25 years down the road, things change. But I also don't want this to be a process where the city of Sparks has decided we want to make a change, or don't want to make a change, or whatever we decide, and then we're overridden by this body. And that's where I end. At the end of the day, this is a city of Reno issue. I don't know that we should be really in the middle of any of this as the governing board, because they've made their choice. And I think that should be the end of it. If you don't like who's voted for it, then vote them out of office. I mean, we get to do that every 4 years. So just for me, I'm going to go with the wishes of the majority of the city council of Reno.
Thank you. Ms. Prente?
Just real quick, thank you, Jessica Prenti, for the record. Mayor Lawson, just to address your point, I agree completely. This body is not an appellate agency of the decisions of the local governments. You are here with your regional hat on, and you are here to determine whether or not this tier change request meets the criteria of the regional plan, not whether or not you agree with City of Reno and whether they got it right.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussions? I will entertain a motion.
Well, if I can give one, I doubt that it will.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. But that's okay. I mean, I respect everyone here, and you got to evaluate these things yourself. So I'm just looking I'm on the item, but I'm looking for the page that actually has it. I think it's right here. I think I have it.
Page 72 has a proposed motion.
Right, on page 10. This page 10.
Page 10 of that, that's correct.
right? Okay. So this proposed motion is not what I want. So my motion is I move to not adopt RPGB Resolution 2603 regarding an amendment to 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings that I've listed orally in my discussion. I'm not able to make the findings. And that's all the findings, not just some of them. And I can make some and not some.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Okay, motion fails. If I can please.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the RPGB Resolution 2603 regarding amendment to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report and my own review of those necessary findings and the ability to make all findings at this time.
Second. Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to 8E.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 8E is a petition for review of the RPC's determination of the conformance of the master plan amendment on the site from PGOS to SMU. Again, that was submitted by John Marshall, representing the Save Lake Ridge Open Space. We're going to have a presentation briefly about the master plan amendment from Chris Tolley, followed up by a presentation from Mr. Marshall.
Of course, yes. We're going to go ahead and we'll take 10 minutes because you're not the only one. So if we can take a couple of minutes and then we'll be right back. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's our everyday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith, the record. We have item 8E. Again, it's a public hearing. It's a petition for review of the RPC's determination of conformance for the master plan amendment from PGOS to SMU. We have Chris Tolley, regional planner, for a short presentation. And then we will hear from the petitioner, Mr. John Marshall.
Good afternoon again, governing board members. Chris Tolley, Team RPA, has introduced. This is a petition for review of the master plan amendment conformance review associated with the City of Reno Master Plan amendment for the Lake Ridge Resort, in that case number CR25-028. We've seen a lot of this material in the previous two items, so we will go quickly through this part. Again, we're looking at a change for the subject site, 12.5 acres from parks, greenways, and open space to suburban mixed use. The RPC did find that the proposed master plan amendment conforms to the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan, and the associated tier amendment that we heard in the previous item was changing from the Tier 2 to Tier 1 regional land use. Continuing with the overview, again, this is a 12.5 acre subject site within a larger parcel at 1200 Golf Club Drive. As part of this, the subject site is going to change from Parks, Greenways, and it's proposed to change from Parks, Greenways, and open space to suburban mixed use. The balance of the property will remain parks, greenways, and open space. Again, that's land use in the City of Reno Master Plan. As part of the Regional Planning Commission's determination, they looked at, again, this change in land use for the 12.5 acre site, 12.5 acre subject site. And we can see the existing and proposed, again, going from parks, greenways, and open space to suburban mixed use on the right-hand side of the screen. The RPC, in its analysis of the proposal, did look at the review criteria listed in policy RC9. And their determination cited, and again, this was from the April 23rd meeting, the RPC determined that the proposed amendment to the City of Reno Master Plan conformed with the regional plan. It was a unanimous vote. The existing park, greenways, and open space on the subject site is developed. Suburban mixed use allows for a diverse mix of commercial and residential uses, and that basically comes from the City of Reno Master Plan. Again, the subject site is 12.5 acres. The remainder of the golf course is proposed to remain parks, greenways, and open space. Suburban mixed use and Tier 1 are adjacent to the subject site, as we've heard. And the City of Reno, RPC, and Team RPA staff all determined that the use was appropriate considering the character of the area. So with that, the proposed motions that staff has put forth and are in the packet are up on the screen. We'll hand it over to the petitioner for this case.
Thank you.
Hello again, John Marshall for Save Lake Ridge Open Space. I had talked with Mr. Smith and Mrs. Prunty about incorporating our comments from the last agenda item, so I don't have to repeat them for this agenda item, since we believe they are the same comments to save me, save my voice, and maybe save some brain cells. So with that agreement that we can incorporate and move in the public record the comments of myself and Mr. Liparelli into this record, I'd love to get a verbal agreement to that.
Yes, we will.
We agree.
Yes.
Then I have one
right ahead.
stray comment that
Go right
can't help, is that I think while we are very interested in Commissioner Reese's news of the widening will occur within 2 years, we're very concerned that that just comes from RTC and not NDOT. Since it's an NDOT road, we wonder how that's going to actually work without their approval. And with that, I guess I'm looking at Mrs. Prunty to confirm our discussion.
Yes, we had an email discussion, Jessica Prunty for the record again, where I suggested that his comments, John Marshall's comments and Paul Liparelli's comments could be incorporated into this item, even if they were made during the RPA discussion.
Thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So this is a public hearing, and I will open it. Are there any requests to speak?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll bring it back to the commissioners and Ms. Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate, these are slightly different findings in this section. It's conformance with the regional plan. So I wanted to list the ones that I could not make. And specifically, the public facility services, I've gone over that extensively about both the external and internal transportation network. It was already mentioned on the record, numerous other issues that I think are lacking in terms of being able to properly address emergency services and evacuation. I don't want to belabor any of that, so I'll just list it. In terms of natural resources, I didn't go into that in depth before, but I will say this. In the time I've been on council, going on 12 years, I do not recall in that entire time that the city council agreed to change open space to any other designation. In fact, there were huge battles. One day, we talked about, there was a proposal to intensify a recreation use by the university on 1 acre of open space near that, I think it's a SEA house, or if I got it right. And incredible opposition. And it was just going to be a different kind of park, okay? It was rejected by council. And every other proposal, there's been another proposal right near me to change some open space that was deeded to the county, but in the city sphere to develop recreation, no go. 5 acres of open space. So this is why this one astonished me. I've never seen any kind of change, and I understand the difference maybe, is that it's privately owned versus publicly owned. But I think there had plenty on the record about the importance of privately owned open space as well as publicly owned. And in fact, many, many developments that have come to Reno have specifically designated privately owned open space as an amenity in order to get the project approved. Okay, so it's common to have privately owned public space, open space, be an important factor. And then finally, the whole issue about regional coordination. I'm just trying to coordinate traffic enforcement on an existing road. Very difficult, just traffic enforcement. Never mind the actual use of it or the widening of it or more complex issues about ownership and management and maintenance. Just enforcement of existing rules. So these are the findings I cannot make. Public Facility Services, Natural Resources, and Regional Coordination. There's also the findings earlier, Regional Plan Amendment findings, and I'll just list those. 1, Regional Capacity and Growth Projection. Existing and planned development is 2. It does not take into account the planned development right next door. Existing and planned public facility and service availability, timing, adequacy, and fiscal impacts, number 3. Natural resources, number 4. Intergovernmental impacts, tremendous intergovernmental impacts, and the health and welfare of the community. So I can't make those, and so you know the motion I would likely make. But
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just say that a lot of the comments that apply to the prior hearings are relevant to this one. I have been able to make all of the various findings and determinations for the proposed amendment to the master plan, and it does conform to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan on that basis.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Ms. Dorr, I'll allow
Yeah,
you
sure.
to make the
Thank you.
motion.
Yeah, I would like to grant the petition for review and reverse the RPC's determination. So I move to grant the petition, and I can't exactly read all of this, but I think it's written on a screen and in our books, and so I'm recommending granting the petition for appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Okay, seeing none, the motion dies. I'm open to another motion, please.
Madam Chair, I move to deny the petition for review and uphold the Regional Planning Commission's determination that the proposed amendment to the City of Reno Master Plan conforms with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan.
Second. Great. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we moved on to number 9A, members and directors' reports. Director Smith.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. If you just bear with me for about 5 more minutes, I do want to give you an update on a couple things that I think you'll be interested in hearing about. Number 1, the strategic goals and agency report card. That's a new concept that we adopted with last year's budget, and that's something we're working on right now that we plan to bring forth to you in August, where we'll be proposing the strategic goals for next year and reporting on what we've done thus far. So just wanted to give you a heads up that we have not forgotten about that. But what I really want to talk to you about is that we've been making big progress on the data center engagement effort that you guys have tasked us with in terms of reaching out to the community and coming up with recommendations for rules or regulations or best practices that will help foster alignment among the 3 local jurisdictions in terms of data center approval. So just to give you a quick breakdown, and we're going to bring you this in August. That's the plan, to bring you, if not the final report, then very much the preliminary report, which will include the recommendations. So we're working hard to get this to you on August 13th at your Regional Planning Governing Board meeting. We have interviewed so far 25 or more stakeholder organizations. We got about 10 more to go. And we are casting a broad net. So these are organizations ranging from the business sector, energy and water providers, environmental groups, regulators, government agencies, community groups, and research organizations like DRI. And we really want to make sure that we're bringing together the broad picture on this data center landscape and high energy use landscape and provide the most objective lens possible that has a foundation of evidence from reaching out to all of these folks. We ask common interview questions. We're synthesizing all those comments, and we're going to present at the end of July. We're going to hold a focus group meeting where we invite all those stakeholders to come back and hear what we have put together and make sure that we haven't mischaracterized or really missed something. I'm sure that we will not probably have full agreement from all members because it's such a wide range of folks. But nonetheless, we want to make sure we give them one more stab at it before we present it here. Further, following that, we are going to do a public outreach meeting where we, after that focus group, which I'll, of course, keep you all apprised of so you can attend, where we put it out there and say, hey, public, what did we miss? What are we saying that you think is wrong? But again, trying to reflect all of these concepts that we've heard and bring it all together. Simultaneously, through this process, we're doing independent research on ordinances and best practices that have been adopted in other regions of the U.S. So we're bringing that to bear as well as part of our work. In terms of engaging the public, I mentioned we're going to have the community conversation. That'll be before the RPGB meeting, probably the first week of August. And we're going to announce that exact date soon. We're locking down a space because we think it's going to be well attended. We want to make sure we have a big enough space. So we're working on that. But we also have our data center webpage. You can go check it out right now. We have a data center engagement effort webpage built off that with a survey that you can take as a member of the public. You can sign up for our mailing list and get updates. And you can get access to all kinds of information. And again, so this final product we're working towards to bring you on the 13th of August is a report of all of this work and a list of prioritized recommendations for rules, regulations, or best practices. We want to have a focus on local governments because that's where you all serve and that's where you can, create rules and use your powers. We want to make sure to what I've heard many times is that we're working together. We're aligned in our perspective on how the three jurisdictions move forward, right? To the degree that we possibly can, understanding that each of you in your jurisdictions have your own goals and vision, but generally that we're not creating a conflicting paradigm, right? That we all understand. Further, though, some of these things that are going to address the issues that come up around data centers cannot be handled on a local level. And so we're going to make sure to identify where we think that there are recommendations for maybe regional rulemaking, and certainly, going into the legislature and knowing that the state entities like the PUC, Consumer or Bureau of Consumer Protection, all the folks that are involved at state level, we're at least going to acknowledge where those pieces lie, make some recommendations, knowing that we can't control necessarily what happens there, but we're really looking to have this document be a well-vetted, foundational, touchstone piece that obviously your local jurisdictions can take a look at and utilize, but so could our neighboring jurisdictions like Story County, and so could regional and state entities, and really try to bring it together. So that's the goal, and you can follow along, join the mailing list, email me, call me, ask me questions, whatever. I'll tell you everything I know. But we're working hard to get that broad spectrum and bring you what we find. So with that, thank you very much for today's meeting. And our next meeting will be August 13th, right here.
Great. And Dr. Smith, I would like to thank you because I've had a couple labor groups reach out to me about the concern and wanting a seat at the table. And Dr. Smith has reached out and done interviews. So we make sure that as the wide net is out there, that it does capture everybody that data centers are touching right now. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Any questions, comments on Dr. Smith's update? Yes, go right ahead. Hold on, Mr. Rodriguez first.
I just want to thank you. First, I know I'm looking forward to the next meeting to see what that study comes up with. And also to share with you, there are legislators I know is actually reached out by a couple from Southern Nevada. And I told them, we're having a study coming out here soon. So I definitely believe there's going to be a lot of people looking at that. So great. I just want to thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I was going to make the same comment under board comments, but since you've given me the opportunity to say it here, I am excited, and it does sound like you're listening to what we've been saying. So I'm grateful for that, Dr. Smith, and also to our chair and vice chair for pushing the item along. I wanted to make sure that when you said you've had the conversations with various stakeholders, that I made sure to call out a specific group of stakeholders that I want to make sure are included, which are our tribal communities. Mm-hmm. And even within that grouping of, it's not a monolith, right? Because what I want to make sure happens is that folks in the WODA camp, which is Water Over Data Alliance, who I think mostly identify as Pyramid Lake, Paiute, and Washoe are in the conversation, but also the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, I think ought to have some input, in large part because in Hungry Valley, they have a large area of our region, which I think they believe is appropriate and should be developed as data centers. And so, sometimes when people say, tribal communities are opposed to data centers, they're not really speaking for everybody. And so I want to make sure that we are giving opportunity to all of those in that impacted community to be able to speak to it. I also have a copy of the Reno Sparks Indian Colony's Economic Development Report, which they just finalized maybe in the last 6 months, which makes a very specific and identifiable call out for their desire to develop Hungry Valley in an industrial commercial space, including data centers. So that was it, but I'm grateful for the leadership here at this body and for you, Dr. Smith, and for the staff. Ms. Knox has been leading the charge at the City of Reno and has been most helpful and gracious, and I think had a lot of time here before she came to us over there. So it's good.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you. Just a few follow-ups for Jeremy here. When do you expect that public meeting to be, roughly? Before the August or after?
Yeah, the first week of August.
Okay.
We should-
And then the second question was, you attended or participated actually in the legislative all-day session on data centers?
Certainly attended and spoke briefly, yes, in collaboration with Tumwa.
Okay. So do you have any information? Are they going to be doing a report themselves, or have you heard anything about that?
I don't have information about the report, but we have both of those committees that were represented there targeted as folks that we're in communication with, and we're going to make sure to provide them our findings as soon as they're available.
Okay, that's great. All right, thank you.
Yeah. And just quickly, we have already engaged with RSIC, the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, and we're working to get the WODA folks online, and RSIC is helping us connect again with PLPT, the Pyramid Lake Tribe. So we're on it with the tribal representation.
Great.
Of course, you're several steps ahead of me, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on this? All right, seeing none, we'll go to 9B, Legal Counsel's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prenti for the record. I have a very brief report. I wanted to let you know that at the last Regional Planning Commission meeting, I did a legal training segment for the Regional Planning Commissioners and distributed them a memorandum, basically kind of a regional planning from a legal perspective. And I also provided that to the members of this body yesterday. The training went well. We have quite a few new commissioners on that body right now. Additionally, the item du jour for the Regional Planning Commission is Sierra Reflections, Project of Regional Significance Conformance Review. There was an initial hearing held. It went till 10 p.m. and the chair adjourned the meeting at that point in time. So we are scheduled for Monday to reopen the hearing and continue the effort. We anticipate that will also be a very long meeting. I think inevitably, regardless of the decision of the Regional Planning Commission, that will be an appeal made to this body.
Thank you. Next, number 10, board comments and requests for future agenda items. Do we have anyone? Go right ahead, please.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I think I'm a little behind the step, but I just wanted to thank you so much for the training. I know we've all been really encouraged by your being so forward and really setting parameters and the legal boundaries to which one works. And everyone comes with different expertise, and not everyone is blessed to be an attorney. If you want to call it blessed, I'll use blessed. Maybe we're blessed, not, no, I'm just teasing. The point is, I just want to say thank you very much. And I hope it continues to be ongoing. I will say at Washoe County, we're doing that as a regular ongoing opportunity to ensure that folks that are actually serving in quasi-judicial roles understands exactly what that means. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, we have public comment. Anything?
We do not have any.
Okay, thank you. Written correspondence.
I know there's none.
Great, thank you. So with that now, I will adjourn. Thank you, everyone.